there is one lie that is constantly told to athletes that is completely killing their speed. In this video, we'll be covering what that lie is, and at the end of the video, we'll reveal the correct way that athletes should be thinking if they want to get faster. The lie that I'm referring to occurs during what is known as the drive phase, which is more or less the start of a sprint race or whenever an athlete accelerates. This is then followed by the top speed phase and then the deceleration phase where the athlete slows down. The way the drive phase is usually phrased is by thinking about it in terms of the angle of the trunk. In other words, the drive phase is when the athlete is leaning more forward, and as they transition into top speed sprinting, their trunk angle gradually rises. This is generally true, of course. However, I believe that thinking of the drive phase in such terms can actually give athletes the wrong idea about what good acceleration is, and therefore can actually be harmful. To explain why I think this is harmful, we need to understand a bit about what constitutes good acceleration technique. Since we can only apply force to the ground, which is the only thing that moves us forward, when we're in contact with the ground, how we contact the ground is ultimately the fundamental consideration during all of sprinting. I've made a video in the past going into greater depth on ideal foot strike mechanics during acceleration that you should check out, but in summary, it boils down to striking behind your center of mass with small shin angles. Okay, so why does that mean that forward lean is bad? Surely if we lean forward, we're in a good position to be able to strike behind our center of mass with small shin angles, right? Well, not quite. The reason for this is that the amount of forward lean that is required is usually well overestimated by athletes. Instead of focusing on the appropriate foot strike patterns, athletes tend to overemphasize the forward leaning aspect, which leads to what is known as overstriding. Overstriding is basically where athletes strike in front of their center of mass, which causes them to slow down or to brake. Many athletes have an issue with overstriding, and I suspect one of the main reasons why is because of the popular emphasis on leaning forward. Let's do an experiment to test this.
So we're here at the track. I'm going to do 2 reps. First one, I'm going to...
Turns out the audio wasn't too good when I filmed that, but basically what I said was that I was going to do 2 reps, one where I focus on leaning forward and coming out low, as some people say, and one where I instead focus on striking behind me. I'm going to use Azide Performance's Sprint Vision tech to analyze my sprinting and see what the difference is. All I do is film myself using my phone, upload the video footage via my profile, and I get a full biomechanical and technique breakdown of my sprinting metrics and form. Basically like having a coach or an assistant coach in my smartphone. This is the rep where I focused on leaning forward, and this is the rep where I focused on striking backwards. After analyzing these with the Sprint Vision system, here's what I found. As we can see, if we look at the shin angles and ground contact times, they were both much higher in the rep where I was focusing on leaning forward. If we look at my foot strike patterns, my step was also far too in front of my center of mass on my second step. However, when I was focusing on getting my second step down early and striking backwards, my shin angles and foot strike position was much better. If you're interested in using Sprint Vision yourself, I recommend joining the newly launched Sprint Elite community. It's the ultimate toolbox for athletes, offering 60+ pages of training programs, a velocity rank tool with data from over 20,000 athletes to compare yourself to, exercise and nutrition guides, personalized advice, access to the specially trained AI sprint coach Azzy, and much more. Plus, you get a free Sprint Vision subscription to test out too. Check the link in the description to join Sprint Elite, the ultimate community for aspiring athletes. Now back to overstriding. You might even find it surprising that elite sprinters also occasionally struggle with this technical point. A while ago, I made a video on Marcel Jacobs' start progression, and here you can see that in 2019, Jacobs was clearly more focused on leaning forward. This caused him to consistently overstride, striking in front of his center of mass and causing him to introduce these braking forces, slowing him down. Now, if we look at Jacobs in 2021, he is much more upright without any excessive forward lean and is showing much better foot strike positions and shin angles. Of course, Jacobs' acceleration improved massively over this period due to these changes, contributing to him winning the 100-meter gold at the Tokyo Olympics. So, instead of the main focal point of the drive phase and the start of the race being on trunk angle and staying low, it should all be about foot strike position. Yes, leaning slightly forward can help us achieve this goal, but it should simply be a mere side effect, a consequence of our good technique and not the aim itself. I suggest that athletes shouldn't even be thinking about forward lean during acceleration, lest it lead to overstriding. Another key aspect of the drive phase and acceleration in general is lower body reactivity, which if you're interested in improving, then you can check out this video here.